friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Sasha. Today we're going to do a fun little video called 5 Reasons You Might Love Omegaverse and why I think you should start reading it if you haven't already. I love Omegaverse. I have sort of been in and out of the genre for years and years and years and got really sucked back in last year in 2024. So I have some favorite auto-buy authors I want to tell you about, and then I also want to talk about the 5 different reasons, it's actually 6, but we're going to say 5 different reasons where I think you might also enjoy this genre. Before we get started, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe on my channel and my videos if you haven't already. And we also have a really quick intermission for a word from our sponsor. Hey there friends, it's me, Sasha, and today's sponsor is my Etsy shop, Dreaming of Stars Co. Have you ever wished you could match the vibe of your favorite book to a bookmark? Have you ever started reading a book but wanted to take a break and realized there was nothing close by except the last receipt from your library to use to hold your place? Hey, we're here to listen. We don't judge. Whether it's dark romance, queer, indie, fantasy, sci-fi, nonfiction, we've got bookmark designs just for you. And when I say we, it's really just me, but the we makes it sound, official or something. All my bookmarks are made right here in this very room by me, myself, Sasha Marie. You can use code WELCOME10 on your first order for a discount. Thank you so much for watching. Now back to your regularly scheduled programming. Okay, so my auto-buy authors for this genre currently are Eliana Lee and Amelia Emerson. They are 2 authors who are currently sort of co-writing a series together, with A Pack for Autumn and A Pack for Winter being the first 2 books that are out. So they take turns writing every other book. They aren't writing the books necessarily together, but we do have some characters that are going to overlap in the series in general. They have also written, Eliana Lee wrote The Scent of Us and The Heat of Us, and then Amelia Emerson wrote Forbidden Part 1 and 2, as well as Cherished. All of these books I have yapped about nonstop on social media, and I just think there's never not a time to keep talking about Omegaverse. Did I use all those negatives right? Did that become a positive? I don't know. So my first reason you might enjoy Omegaverse is if you enjoy why choose romances. Typically in Omegaverse, we're going to be forming a pack. Either the pack is half formed already, where potentially the alphas and the betas are already a bonded unit and they're just searching for their omega, or we're going to have the omega sort of finding all of these different people and then creating the pack all together. I guess I should also mention some terms, which kind of brings us into point number 2, which is animal instincts. So if you've ever read a wolf shifter romance, you're probably familiar with a lot of these things. Omegaverse can be about shifters, but more likely than not, with the books I'm recommending specifically and the authors I recommend, they are completely human. They just have these Omegaverse instincts within them that make things a little bit different, so they never shift into an animal. So some of the terms you should know are alphas, betas, and omegas. Alphas are sort of the top of the food chain in these books. They are like the strongest member of the pack. Physicality wise, they're probably the biggest members of the pack, and they can have more of a sort of vocal control over the omegas, which can be used in some abusive ways, or it can just be used in a fun, sexy way. It really depends on what kind of book you're reading. If you're reading a cozy Omegaverse, or if you're reading a really really dark Omegaverse. It's gonna all depend on which type of book you pick up. We also have some scenting that happen. Oh, well, hold on. I said alpha and then I was just no one else matters. That's not true. My brain just went sidetracked. So we did alphas. Betas are typically the most human out of the pack, where they don't have as intense senses as the others, so they aren't as controlled by the alphas as the omegas would be. They can still have some scent reactions to things, but it's a lot more tamed down. It would be like a human going outside and smelling, oh, it's going to rain, versus an actual dog going outside and smelling what it smells like. Those would be like the main differences. And then the omegas typically are a lot smaller and a little more curvier, is like sort of the canon lore of what an omega should look like. Dainty, but you know, a little cushion, okay? Or at least the best Omegaverse have that in them, I think. Unless you're a tall gal, and we could also, there have been some alphas who are females who are big and built, and I love female alphas. I need more stories with female alphas, to be totally honest. So there's something for everyone in these stories, and a lot of times we can have within the pack unit, sometimes an alpha and a beta, or an alpha and an alpha are already dating or already together. Sometimes none of the men in the pack date and they're all just focused on the omega. Sometimes everyone is dating everyone and it's just a poly fun time, and it's the best. One of my favorite things about the animal instincts is the nesting aspect. There are even like Bath and Body Works or Bed Bath & Beyond and all of these fun stores in these stories, like Nest Wonderland and all of these things where the alphas can take their omegas, or the megas can go by themselves because they're strong, independent ladies. And they can get all of these fun pillows and throw blankets and fuzzy soft things, and it's just like a sensory wonderland. I wish we had some in real life. I'm sure that if I went to like a Bed Bath & Beyond, that's kind of what I would be getting myself into, but I don't know if they cater to those needs specifically. So that's definitely one of my favorite things, is like the nesting aspect as well. And then I already briefly mentioned the scents. Scent matches are sometimes a really big thing in these stories where it's a little bit like fated mates. Everyone has a scent match, and there are even scent banks sometimes where a packless omega or packless alphas and betas can put their scent in, and then people will go in and rotate through the scents and be like, this is my match, and then they meet in real life, and that's a really fun aspect of the story too. Sometimes you smell your mate out on a walk somewhere and you can't find them, and then you meet them like 6 years later and you're like, I smelled you 6 years ago, and that happens too. So it's like there's so many different ways they can integrate scent matches into the story, but sometimes they're just like, you smell good, and not necessarily like, this is my mate forever. It really just depends on the ways that the author wants the pack to be formed. Also, during the spicy times, we can have nodding. I'm not going to tell you more about it, but if you know, you know. Maybe don't Google it out in public, okay? Alright. My third thing of why you should read Omegaverse stories is there's a ton of found family aspects to these stories, because a lot of the times you're coming into it as the audience, as the reader, when the pack is not fully formed. So no matter what, you're going to get to witness these people meeting each other, falling in love with each other. Sometimes they're going to be finding all of these different people independently. Sometimes it's going to be one person finding a group of people. It's like, it's just the finding of it. It's the initial, like, getting to know them stages that are so much fun. And it really does become such a big family aspect. A lot of times packs are at least 4 people, including the Omega, but I've read one where she has like 6 to 8 people in her pack plus her, so it's like, it's a family dynamic for sure, okay? You get my drift. We're doing family things in the book. We're doing very RX rated things in these books. It's a good time. My fourth favorite thing is the dating and the courting, which I kind of already mentioned, is we are in the finding each other stages. So even if it's like a scent bank match, like I had already talked about, they have to court the Omega, and there are rules of how you court Omegas and take them on dates. You're supposed to gift them things for their nest. You're supposed to do this. You're supposed to do that. And a lot of times we get them dating each individual member, and then we'll get them dating as the whole pack, and I just eat all of it up. I think it's so much fun. If you like reading about dates in books, this is another reason this sort of genre is going to be perfect for you. Our fifth, should I get my fingers wrong? Our fifth and not final reason I think you would enjoy Omegaverse is for the comfort and or healing. Like I've already mentioned, there's cozy Omegaverse, but there's also extremely dark Omegaverse. In both stories, you're going to get the comfort and healing. In one of them, the latter, obviously, you're going to have a lot of trauma to work through. You're going to have a lot of dark shit to read about before you can get into the actual, like, comfort and healing stage. But with all of the books that I have read so far, there is always a comfort and healing stage, okay? Sometimes if it's part 1 and 2, part 1's going to end on that cliffhanger, so you're not getting your happily ever after in part 1. Keep going, okay? Keep going. It'll get resolved, I promise. In the books I've recommended, at least. So comfort and healing is a really, like, necessary thing I need as a reader and viewer specifically. Otherwise, I can't end on, like, a depressed note. I really can't. I really need whatever has been broken to be fixed. Or if it's, like, a chronic illness or something, not necessarily fixed and healed, but, like, now they have their people and they can move on through life while chronically ill and not be alone with that illness. That is comfort and healing for me. Okay, that's what I mean. Which brings me to our sixth reason, which is just sort of a, like, I love these authors so much and this is why I recommended them. Both of these authors, different but same. One of them provides a ton of diversity in their stories, and one of them provides a ton of disability rep. Sometimes there's crossover where, you know, some of them have both, okay? Eliana Lee, our diversity queen. She does Asian representation so much in her books. She tries to pull from different countries and cultures and include a lot of different places. The last book I read, she had Sri Lanka and she had Chinese, I think. Those were the two main ones, but she's done a ton of different representation with her characters. Amelia Emerson does a lot of disability rep. One of the last books I read for her was PCOS and PMDD. She's also done, like, POTS-like symptoms, but that's not what it ended up being in the end, and I can't really give away the spoiler. But that was another disabled character. She also does mental health representation really well. She had an alpha talking about how he's in therapy. We love men who go to therapy. Imagine what our country would look like if every man went to therapy. Okay, I'm gonna leave you there, because I could honestly yap about Omegaverse for the rest of my life. It's a special interest at this point. I love it so much. I don't think I've read an Omegaverse yet this year, which I need to rectify immediately. So, thank you all so much for watching this video. I hope I've convinced you to read some Omegaverse in the future. If not, if it's not your thing, that's totally fine. We listen, we don't judge here on this channel, unless you think books are not political, and unless you think audiobooks are not reading. Because then I will judge you, and I will not listen to what you have to say. That's all from me. If you have any Omegaverse recommendations, please leave them in the comments. I am begging you. I want to read all the Omegaverse all the time. I will love you forever if you leave a comment and subscribe. That would be so great. Okay, I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks for being here. Goodbye!